welcome to the Catventurous podcast. Today it's my pleasure to welcome Racheal from, now I'll read this out, it's oc.oreo, yeah? I've got it right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
On Instagram. And she's, I saw their account a few days ago and I thought, oh man, I really want to speak to her. So thank you for coming on, Racheal.
No, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So you've got quite a unique story and I'm imagining there's a lot of people who don't know it. So do you want to start at the beginning perhaps and tell us how Oreo and perhaps Gravy came into your family and the story behind, yeah, particularly Oreo? You know, I'm super interested in her story. So, share whatever you would like to share about her story and how she came to your family.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. So I guess I'll start with Gravy because we got him first. And so at the time we actually had adopted another cat. Her name was Biscuit, at the same time that we adopted Gravy. And, before we adopted them, my partner had always been more of a dog person, right? Like we're always like really outdoorsy people. So we really wanted to have a dog that we could take out with us and everything. But unfortunately I'm pretty allergic to dogs. So like we knew long-term we couldn't get a dog. But we really love animals. And so I started doing some research online just about is it possible to take your cat outdoors? Like, I don't know, right? And turns out there's so many adventure cats out there. It's just so inspiring to see so many people taking out their cats with them. So I was like, oh, this is totally a possibility. And when I told this to my partner, his name is Mark, he thought I was like totally crazy. He was like, oh no one takes their cat out, like we're always outdoors and we've never seen anybody take their cat out. And I'm like, no, look at all these Instagram posts, like Facebook is everywhere, right? So he was kind of reluctant, but I'm getting these cats, right? Like and so we just hopped onto our local animal shelter and we ended up adopting, like I said, Biscuit and Gravy. So we had them for maybe 2 months. And then, I have this really, really bad habit of constantly checking the local shelters for the cats that they have for adoption. And I should really stop because I'm constantly on there. And I was scrolling past, a whole bunch of like these adorable cats and everything. And then I saw Oreo and she had no eyes. And like immediately I was drawn to her. I was like, oh my goodness, right? Like she looks so adorable. And so Mark has always been like, you can't show me these things because he's got such a soft spot for animals that if I showed him like any animal that had any sort of disability, he'd be like, okay, we have to have them. So before I even said anything to him, I was like, oh, I was on the animal shelter website again. And he was like, stop right there. I don't want to hear it because we already have 2 cats. But I was like, okay, but you're going to really want to see this one. And he reluctantly was like, oh, okay, fine. So I showed him her picture. And immediately he was like, okay, we have to go get her. Like it was like not even like a 5-minute discussion. It was just, yes, we have to get her. So I emailed the shelter. They're the Cochrane Humane Society. Huge thank you to them, by the way. They took such good care of her while she was in their care. And so then like the very next day we drove down and we went to go pick her up. And so Mark was already like, we've already got 2 cats and now we're getting a 3rd. Like I think we're crazy cat people now, like officially. And I was like, I think we are. And then from then on he was like, no more looking at those animal shelter websites, okay? And I was like, okay, promise. So anyways, we went down there and like she was just so confident. Like you walk in and like despite the fact that she's got no eyes, she's like running around the room, she's like playing with toys and everything. And we were asking the people at the shelter, we're like, does she have any other like problems aside from the fact that she can't see? And they were like, no, honestly, if it weren't for the fact that like she physically had no eyes, you wouldn't even be able to tell that she was blind. Like she was just zooming around and everything. And it was just incredible to see. So like we fell in love and we were like, yeah, we absolutely have to take her home. And so we took her home and she was in her little pet carrier on our way back to our home. And the entire time she was so feisty. I was really surprised because I thought a lot of cats, like regardless of whether they're blind or not, they're usually a bit more timid. But she was just like, meowing to get out of that carrier. She was like clawing at the door and she was just so sweet. And actually speaking of her, she's trying to get off my lap right now, but yeah. Hey, Oreo.
Will she come on screen?
Yeah, let me just pick her out. It's a bit hard for her to crawl onto my lap sometimes because
Oh,
you can't
sure.
really tell
Yeah,
how
yeah.
high up I am.
Yeah, totally. Oh, I'd love that. Oh, Oreo.
There
She has
she is.
beautiful fur.
Yeah, right? And
Oh,
she
Oreo.
actually,
Hello, darling.
yeah, and so we brought her home and she was just so feisty. Like we heard that you're supposed to, keep cats in their own separate room for a little bit at first, so they get used to your place. And so we had like a small bedroom set up for her. And we were also trying to slowly introduce her to Biscuit and Gravy at the time. So we like wanted to keep them separated and everything. But the second we brought her home, she was like meowing, trying to get out the door. She was like, I was just so impressed at how confident she was. Um, and so then we know that the introduction between like cats, you're supposed to take like a long time, like several weeks or whatever. But within like the first 2 days, we just couldn't let her keep her in the room anymore. She just wanted out so badly. And so we took her outside to meet Gravy and Biscuit for the first time. And they were actually fairly receptive with each other. There was a little bit of like low growling at first and like mild hissing, but nothing like crazy. Um, and what surprised me is that when Gravy kind of like hissed at her a little bit, she actually hissed back twice as hard, like, don't mess with me, right? Like I am not to be taken advantage of, right? So we were just like, she's amazing.
Go Oreo.
Yeah. And so then, yeah, the three of them got along really well. So then unfortunately, after we got her, Biscuit passed away not too long after. Yeah, but yeah, she and Gravy have gotten along really, really well since then. And it's just, yeah, she's amazing. Actually, once I started her Instagram account, her foster home reached out to me and they were sending me these pictures of her and like telling me about her backstory because I guess the people at the Humane Society weren't too sure exactly what was happening with her. But she was born with like really, really bad eyes. And they had tried a whole bunch of things to try to keep her eyes because she had really impaired vision. But she could still see a little bit, I guess. And so they were trying like ointments and everything, and they just none of it was working. So when the new year came, they ended up opting to just remove her eyes. And so she and her entire litter all had that same ocular disease, but Oreo's was the worst. I don't know why, but the other cats in that litter ended up keeping their eyes. Granted, like they had some impaired, like a partial blindness, but Oreo just ended up getting her eyes entirely removed. So
Okay. Do you
yeah,
know
but
what
it's
caused it? What was the cause of it? Was it a congenital thing or was it an infection or?
yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think it was an infection just because they were all born with it, it seems.
Right.
So I'm not sure exactly what caused it, but yeah, her entire litter is like that. And but they've all found really good like forever homes now. So
Great. That was so. How old's Oreo now?
we adopted her when she was 4 months and she is now 8 months. So
Okay.
she's still, yeah, she's just so confident for something so young.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, the pictures on Instagram, she holds herself in a really confident way, and I suspect she
Oh, for
might be
sure.
born to be a Catventurous. So she's got a great time ahead of her. It's awesome. Love
Yeah,
it.
of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the things we noticed is like when we brought her home, she would just like jump on our shoulders. Like, we would bend down to pet her and everything, and she would just jump on our shoulders because she just wanted like us to walk around. She was so curious what the noises we were making. Like she was just not afraid at all.
Amazing little girl. And so, I mean, what made you decide to take her and Gravy on leash? What was it? You said that you're very active and you loved getting out. Was that your main factor, or did you have other reasons for wanting to take them out?
Yeah, so our main reason was because we wanted to take them with us wherever we went. 'Cause we're like crazy cat people. But also just because yeah, at first we were actually just trying to train Gravy to take outside. We weren't sure if Oreo was like fit for the outdoor lifestyle, just because she is blind. We were like really nervous about taking her out. So we were actually just training Gravy in our backyard. We had already gotten him accustomed to the harness and everything. We walked him around on a leash just inside our house. And so after we had Oreo, we brought Gravy outside into just our backyard, and we got like a mesh screen door. And the entire time we were out there, Oreo was just sitting at the door, like listening to us. And she just like was so curious about what we were doing. So then after that same day, I decided to bring Gravy, and I was like, oh, let's try Oreo, right? And anybody who's ever done this before knows you shouldn't just put a harness on a cat and go. So I guess that was kind of my bad, but I tried putting the harness on her and she absolutely hated it.
Yeah.
Like, she just like, what is this foreign thing on my body? Especially because she can't see what it is. She was just going crazy in this harness. So we decided to slowly introduce her to the harness. It's lucky that she's really food motivated. So we, you know, every time we put the harness on her, we give her lots of food, lots of like affection, just a lot of positive reinforcement. And she took to it very easily, actually. After maybe just like 4 days of wearing the harness, she was good to go. Like she didn't even realize it was on anymore. And so then once we got her harness trained, we took her out into the backyard, and it was adorable. I remember this day very well because like the second you put her, like we carried her outside, put her on the ground, and immediately her tail just went straight up and it was just wagging. Like she was just so excited to be out there. And she just like immediately started walking around, trying to sniff everything. Like she was like zooming around our yard, and it was adorable. And we're like, oh, she loves this. And so that prompted us to take her out on like longer adventures.
Yeah, love it. She's clearly made for this lifestyle. I just love it. And what harness and leash do you use? You can name brands if you want to or not, but what style harness do you use?
Yeah, so with Gravy, because he is a little bit more of a spunky cat, like he can see he's a bit harder to like catch and everything, we make sure we use the harness that's I'm not exactly sure what kind it is, but it's like a full vest where it wraps around his entire body. So it's not just like the simple H style harness. Mm-hmm. It's one that you have to like Velcro in, and it's very secure because we just really don't want him getting away. With Oreo, because she isn't as easily able to run away from us, we just use like a regular H-style harness. And I think that H-style harness is the best type of harness to use when you're introducing a cat to a harness for the first time, just because there's a lot less fabric. And so it's not as like foreign to them. I haven't tried using a vest-like harness for Oreo yet. But I think, you know, if she becomes a lot more confident and she's able to like, you know, navigate the trails a lot better, I think we should look into getting her a more secure harness. The H-style harnesses are good for introductions, but I think if your cat, especially if your cat is kind of like a Houdini, is able to get out of a lot of things, they can pretty easily slip out of them. Yeah. But for now with Oreo, she's pretty good at just her H-style harness.
Yeah, cool. And your leash, do you have a set length, or do you use a retractable, or what do you use for them?
Yeah, so with Gravy, we like to use like a set length one. That one's only, I think, like 1.5 meters. We just like to keep him really close, just because he is able to see, so he's able to like, you know, run away if something scares him. So we don't want that happening. With Oreo, we're a little bit more lenient. We have a retractable leash for her, and that one is a maximum of 3 meters. But even then, we usually keep it very close. You know, not a lot of things spook her, so we're lucky she doesn't try to like run away kind of thing. But just in case, like, you know, if we see someone coming with like their dog or whatever, we want to be able to like really easily scoop them up and like, you know, not have to like run after them to pick them up and everything.
Yeah, for sure. And are you using backpacks? I guess you've got one person per cat and with backpacks, or yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So whenever we go out, we always well, if we're taking both the cats, we always have 2 people, just because it's a little bit hard to work 1 person, 2 cats. Yeah, I don't know if you ever tried walking 2 cats before, but it's just impossible. You get nowhere.
No. I know a lot of people who have tried it, but it's not for me. No,
yeah, for sure.
That's my safety threshold.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we have these those backpacks. They're like the big boxy ones where they can you know, sit on the inside and then also sit on top if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. And so it's funny because with Oreo, she's pretty okay with the backpack. And we like acclimated both Gravy and Oreo to the backpack like really early on. We always kept the backpacks just like in our living room where we're always like, you know, present, and they would always just play around it, and then they would just go and sit in it for naps or whatever. So they were already like really used to the backpacks. But I find that when we're outside, Oreo cannot stand being inside the backpack. She always has to be on top. And I think that's because she can't really see where we are. So she needs to know that we're really close to her. So when she's sitting here, she can feel like our necks, or she knows like she feels the back of our head. And that really helps like secure her. It really reinforces her that we're still there. Whereas if she's in the backpack and she can't see or anything, and like she just has no idea like where she is. So sometimes if we're like on the trail and, you know, we're going through like a dangerous rocky section and we don't want her falling off, then we'll stuff her in the backpack and zip it all up for just like however long it takes until we get past that part of the trail. But that entire time she's like meowing, trying to get out. But then the second you put her on top, she just stops meowing. She's like, okay, I'm happy again, you know? So she just really needs to feel that you're still there with her. Otherwise she just starts freaking out.
Yeah, that kind of segues nicely into you've got one cat that's doesn't have the special needs that Oreo has. Have you noticed a difference in the way that you have to bond with them and build trust with each of them? Like with Oreo, obviously she's special needs. Are there special ways that you have to bond with her? And as you're speaking about the backpack, and she can feel when she's on top, she can feel that you're close. Are there other things that you've needed to do with Oreo to build that bond and trust?
Yeah, so with Oreo, we're really keen on building her like recall. So, you know, when we call her name, we need her to come like right away, right? Because if something were to happen, you know, she can't see where the danger is. She needs to be able to get back to us like right away. Whereas Gravy, he still has like a fighting chance of like running wherever. So we really try to reinforce that with Oreo in order to like build the trust. So, you know, it's just you say Oreo and she'll just immediately come to you because she is super food motivated. She knows that when I call her name, it means there is treats. And so, you know, it's a little bit harder to do that with Gravy. He's also very food motivated, but when he's outside, there's just so much stimulation. He just sometimes ignores me, right? So that's why, again, with him, we need like the more secure harness. With Oreo, her recall is good like maybe 90% of the time. Sometimes if she's really caught listening to something, she'll ignore us as well. But it's definitely the recall training that I think is what builds our trust. She knows that when I say Oreo, she's going to come running to me and I'll pick her up, put her on my shoulders. And she feels like very safe like that.
Yeah, nice. It kind of strikes me that in some ways it's an advantage. You know, I'm thinking of another friend of mine who's got a deaf cat, and she's also really confident outside. You know, and I wonder if there's something and it's obviously really individual. It depends on the cat, it depends on the human, but I wonder if having one of the senses that are not available to them, it kind of like it reduces that overstimulation thing that can totally happen when a cat, you know, is going outside. So do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And actually, so just going back to about like, you know, what prompted us to take her outside, you know, because she can't see, we figured she needed extra stimulation. At least Gravy can look outside the window, you know, watch the birds. But she's literally just like, you know, it's like a room that with no stimulation. She can't see anything. And when we're working, because it's so quiet, you know, taking her outside like really helps with that. And yeah, like because she can't see, it's all of her extra senses are just like, you know, tenfold. She's able to really hear where we are, and it's actually like really impressive because I feel like she can actually determine the difference in our footsteps. Usually when we're walking, we have Mark will walk in front while I walk behind, and she needs one of us to be in front so she knows where to go when we're walking. You know, if we try to let her lead, she'll just go randomly. She doesn't know where to go. But once she starts hearing those footsteps, she starts walking in a straight line towards that person.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really impressive because she can tell when it's not us, I think, when we're walking. Like if we have somebody else who's walking behind us and like just walks past us, she immediately stops and hunkers down and listens to that noise rather than following it. She just like sits.
Yeah, she knows. She knows, I'm sure
exactly.
She knows steps. That makes total sense to me. Like, you know, you
Yeah,
should know the rhythm of your steps and the noise that you make. Because I mean, but as humans, we get to know people's walk and the sound of their walk, right? Why, you know, it makes total sense to me. Why not? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really impressive that she's able to know exactly who to follow, you know, when we're on the trail. It's she's like a super kitty, seriously.
yeah, clearly and you know, it seems to me that it's an advantage in a lot of ways that she can't see, you know, because it does contribute.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, her confidence. Oh, I love it. I don't know if it makes me think of that. I don't know if you've seen the video. It was doing the rounds on YouTube. I saw it a few years ago, but there was a blind kitty shelter, and all the cats are blind, and then they have things flying above them, and they all are able to follow it. obviously not with their eyes,
Yeah,
but
that's
with the sound of the wings and the, well, I can't even remember what it was that was flying above them. I don't know, maybe they had like a toy thing or something, but these cats can all follow perfectly where whatever it is.
yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, and they're all in sync.
And there isn't
It's amazing. Yeah,
exactly, yeah. There's like no delay at all. It's like as
yeah.
if they were just looking at it, right?
Totally. Yeah, it's fascinating. Now, I mean, for anyone who's had a look at your Instagram, like I have, they'll see the beautiful Canadian landscape that you're in. So can you talk a little bit about the environment that you're in, where you normally go cat venturing, you know, just a few things about your environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in Alberta in Canada, and so we're really, really lucky to be like an hour's drive away from the Canadian Rockies. And so, you know, during the weekdays when we don't have the time to like drive down to the mountains to go on a hike or something, we'll usually just take a walk around like our neighborhood. But on the weekends, we're lucky enough to just drive out to the mountains, and you know, there are lots of forests, lots of lakes, lots of beautiful mountains. And actually what's kind of interesting is Oreo has like a huge fascination with water. I don't think she necessarily likes going in the water, but she loves listening to it, which is very interesting. It's actually one of the first things we noticed when we took her home. The second we turned on the tap, she would just come running right into the room, trying to like get onto the counter, like, what is that sound? So during our hikes, we'll pass by a lot of creeks, and she'll just like sit there and just like listen to it. And she could probably sit there for hours. She just wants to get like so close to that water, and then like, you know, she gets closer and closer until her nose touches the water, and then she backs off a little bit, but then she just sits there and just listens. So she's just like fascinated by all the different sounds that we have out there. And another thing that's really interesting is that the wind never seems to bother her. Usually when we're hiking on those mountains, they're pretty high up. And so when you're high up, there's usually a lot more wind than there is like at the base. But she is not bothered at all. She just like listens to the howling of the wind, and like she just looks like such a little sophisticated little cat sitting there and just like taking it all in. Yeah, and lots of forests. It's amazing because sometimes the terrain is really rocky, but she's still able to navigate that no problem. It's yeah, I don't know how she does it.
Yeah, she's amazing, clearly. And as far as other wildlife, are there other wildlife that you need to take, you know, be careful of in, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first things that come to mind is bears. Because we are in the backcountry, there are lots of bears. And that's actually one of the main reasons, you know, the leash is so important. And even when they're in their backpack, if we have the top open or whatever, we make sure we have their leash like in our hand. And you know, it's actually kind of funny because since we're talking about the wildlife, I've had some people ask me like, is it really a good idea to take like a blind cat out to the wilderness like this? Because a lot of animals will see her as prey. And so, you know, how are you guaranteeing her safety and things like that? And that's where like the leash comes in, right? Like, you know, if you're just gonna let your like cat or dog or whatever just wander around, you know, they get into the forest, there we have like wolves, we have bears, you know, they see that and they're definitely going to think it's prey. And so that's why it's so important that we have their leash and that we keep them so close to us. And that's why we keep their leash very short as well, because we don't mind them wandering a little bit, but the second they wander too far into the forest, there could be a bear like, who knows, like maybe 20 feet from the trail, right? And we have to be able to scoop them up and like get our bear spray out and everything. Normally, like bears are more afraid of people where we are. So, you know, if you're close to your animal, they usually don't approach you. But if your animal wanders into the forest a little bit, it doesn't quite see the people yet. Yeah, for sure, bear attacks could happen.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the main danger where you are? Yeah. It's a pretty
Yeah,
big,
definitely bears.
it's a pretty big danger.
Yeah.
Yeah. For you and your cat. I mean, for me, it doesn't strike me that a blind cat would be seen as more prey than a vision, you know, a cat with vision. That kind of doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know. I think that the bear would see
Exactly,
the
yeah.
cat equally as a prey, right? Whether the vision
Exactly.
appeared or not. Yeah. Yeah, I don't, that
Yeah, and
makes sense to me. Yeah.
yeah, I've had some people, you know, kind of imply that it was a bad idea to take Oreo with me because she's, you know, essentially a sitting duck. And I'm like, no, she's not, because we make sure she's very close to us. We scoop her up the second we see any form of danger. You know, that's why we've got our backpacks. She's well trained, and like, we didn't just suddenly put her in a harness and take her outside, right? Like, this is something we've been working towards for a very long time.
Totally.
Mhm.
Well, let's segue into training. You know, when I speak to people, and I know in my own case, training is not something that you just do for, you know, a short time and then it's done. It's a thing that's ongoing. So, what are your techniques that you use for training? How did you start training? You've talked a little bit about that. Perhaps if you could expand on that, and then also, what's your ongoing strategy for training?
Yeah, so I really don't believe that adventure cat training ever finishes. Like you're just constantly training them every single time that you're out, right? So we started training just with the harness, and you know, before like that first time I put that harness on Oreo, she's like flipped. So instead, what we ended up doing is just like draping the harness on her and just letting her feel that weight for a little bit, and then you know. If she didn't shake it off or something, we give her a treat. And then we just kept doing it like very, very small steps at a time, trying to desensitize her to everything. And the kind of harness we have is the H style harness, and you have to slip it over her head. And I find what really helps is that you feed her first while she's distracted eating, and then you put it over her head, and she doesn't even notice that it's gone over her head. So she's really good about that now. When I first did it, I tried to put it over her head, and she was just like flinging her head around. You know, her ears were just like going crazy. She was like, "No, I'm not having this." But yeah, if your cat is food motivated, definitely treats help. So feed them first and then put it on them. And now every time I like bring the harness out of her drawer, you know, Gravy comes running to me because he knows that he's going to get treats. So he's like, oh yes, I love this harness. And Oreo will come by default because she knows that when Gravy goes, she also gets treats because I'm also going to be harness training her at the same time.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so definitely taking baby steps when you start with the harness training, and then just with the leash, because it is like a little bit of extra added weight that they might not be used to yet. We started just by like letting them drag the leash around like at home, supervised obviously, so it doesn't get caught on anything. But yeah, just letting them feel that weight, and then eventually start taking them out into our backyard, and they just like roamed around. We walked a little bit there, and yeah, from there we just kind of slowly started going out to like the front yard. And actually, I remember when we first brought Gravy out to the front yard, there were some kids playing basketball nearby, and dribbling of the ball like really, really scared him. He like booked it back into the house, and that was one of those times when I was like, okay, thank God I have this like really tight harness. It's the one that like you know encapsulates his entire body, because otherwise he would have definitely like wiggled out of the H style harness, right? Like he just like booked it straight back into our house. And then actually it was then that we were like, okay, we really need to start taking these backpacks with us, because at first we were just like, oh, you know, it's just out in the yard and everything, so we don't really need to have the backpacks with us. But the backpack really is their safe space. So if like anything spooks them at all, like they know to get onto the backpack, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're just like a block from your house or just in front of your doorstep, it's really helpful to have that just the second you go out.
Totally. I mean, for me, it's like, you know, and people have heard me talk about this quite a lot, but for me, it's a non-negotiable. Like, it's just totally one of those things that for safe, you just have to have it for safety, for comfort, for confidence, for bonding, for training, for like, it's just indispensable. Like, for me, it's just like backyard is a little bit different, but you know, leaving backyard, going to a park, wherever, you know, I think it just has, it's a must have. Absolutely must have. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's great training practice, honestly.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And you know, again, we're segueing into something like a backpack. It's for me, it's like a number one safety thing, apart from the harness, the leash, that sort of thing, the bond that they have with you. But backpack super important for safety. What other things do you, I mean, you, where you live, you've got obviously you quite some unique challenges with the large predators, that type of thing. Are there any other safety you know, like safety strategies that you have that you need to address in your specific area?
Yeah, so honestly, just being really prepared for the weather. You know, like aside from the wildlife, we always have bear spray with us, and it works like you're not just against bears, but like wolves or coyotes or whatever. So like always being prepared for the weather. It could be like, you know, 30 degrees Celsius at the base of the mountain. And when you get up there with the wind chill and everything, it's suddenly like, you know, 5 degrees or something. And sometimes they still snow up there too. So you have to be really prepared, especially like for the cats, right? So we always make sure we bring like an extra hoodie or something that we can wrap them in case it gets too cold. And honestly, you just have to be prepared to like call it a day. You know, we're close to the mountain, but it's too cold for them. We're just not going to summit today. It's no big deal, right? You just have to be prepared to say like, okay, this is their limit. We don't want to push them too hard because otherwise they're just going to stop liking going outdoors, right? And so just knowing like where their limits are is like a big safety thing, I think. You never want to push them too hard. And yeah, just making sure you're prepared for the weather. Oh, and also definitely making sure they're hydrated and have lots of food. From what I understand, a lot of cats aren't drinking enough water. So just making sure that you always have water available, and like even if they don't drink it very often, we like every half hour to an hour we'll stop, see if they want to drink any water, and if they don't, then we just continue on. But just constantly making sure that they're hydrated and getting enough food and everything for the day.
And do you use any treats or anything throughout the walk? Are you actually using treats? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you're using treats as well. So we usually use like greenies. I'm not sure if you guys have that there, but they're like these things that like clean their teeth as well.
Yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of like dental treats. But yeah, they're really good because like first of all, they love the taste of them, but they also like clean their teeth. So it's kind of like a nice double whammy. But yeah, like we use the treats to train them when they're on the trail too. So if they walk towards us, they're walking in a straight line, we give them a treat. Or, we say backpack and we put them in their backpack and they don't fuss about it. We give them a treat, So yeah, lots of treats, lots of hydration along the trail. And also just making sure that your cats are fully vaccinated and have like flea and tick medication on and everything. Ticks can be a major problem here in Canada. So just making sure that, after your trail, you're like combing them thoroughly, making sure that they don't have any bugs stuck to them or anything.
Yeah, key. Do you have jackets or anything that you use for your cats? Do you use?
So I bought them a small like little winter jacket. We haven't actually taken them out like anything past like maybe 10 degrees C yet. But we did buy them a little winter jacket. It's like waterproof and everything. It seems a little bit restrictive, so I think it's taking them some time to get used to because like it wraps around their entire body. But Oreo has taken pretty well to it. Again, if you distract her with treats, she doesn't even really notice. Gravy is the same. So we've just been kind of like putting it on just at home. We haven't taken it out for a test run yet. I've always just been a little bit concerned, like, how can you even tell if a cat is cold, right? So we're doing it really slowly, trying to, push our boundaries a little bit at a time, but being very slow about it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, jackets and stuff like that can be like, they look great on Instagram, and I think that there is a part of the cat community that not necessarily the Cats on Leash community, but the cat community who are kind of, you shouldn't dress a cat, it's not necessary, it's you're just doing it because you're kind of treating the cat like a baby, that type of thing. But for me, coming back to the safety thing, I really feel like those jackets, keeping a cat warm is super key. I mean, cats totally feel the cold. I mean, they've got their fur coat, but I kind of work on the thing with Melba, and she doesn't have long fur. But if I'm cold, and if I'm in an environment where like I'm dressed for it, but if my hands are cold, my head is cold, I'm assuming that she's probably feeling a similar thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's not just like a fashion thing.
No, totally.
It's not just something for like a picture on Instagram. Like it has function, right? And it goes like the opposite way too. Like cats can overheat, and so we actually also have like a cooling vest for them, where you like soak their vest in water and you can wrap it around them. Yeah, for sure. Like clothes are very functional, super important. And that's why it's important to make sure that you're always prepared for the weather in the mountains, right? Like it could be 30 degrees C out, but still bring that winter jacket just in case. And also the cooling jacket, because what if they overheat? Like you really do feel just like, a mom preparing like for their kids' journey kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to talk to folks like you who are in the mountains, and you have those real climactic issues that, it can be super hot, super cold. And I think it's probably something that a lot of people, if they're starting out with their cat on leash, that it's not their first thought, but it's actually something really, really important to understand, what the dangers are in your environment. And like part of that is weather, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think like before you take your cat anywhere, you definitely need to do the research to see like
Yeah.
what you should expect. Like if it's your first time on that trail, is it something that's going to be too hard to do with a cat? And just be prepared to call it quits if it's like something that is just not worth going through with, right? Like if
Yeah.
it's too windy up there and your cats are meowing like crazy because they can't stand that wind, like, be prepared to just call it a day and
Yeah.
go home. It's still a good day, right? And in
Yeah.
the end, like a lot of this is like, it's not just for you, you're doing this for your cats too, to stimulate them. And you don't want to stimulate them in the bad way. So
Yeah, totally. And reduce confidence and that sort of thing. Yeah, for
exactly,
sure.
yeah.
So what do you think people mostly misunderstand about cats on leash and taking cats on leash? And you've kind of got a special case because you've got a blind cat. So people have obviously expressed concerns to you about that. But what do you think people most misunderstand about cats on leash?
I think some people might think that a lot of cats just don't like it, which is so not true. A lot of people are like, oh, cats should be indoors only. It's safer for them. They don't need to go outside. They don't need to be walked every day like a dog does or whatever. But like I can guarantee you that there are lots of cats out there who enjoy that outdoor stimulation, right? So that's a huge misconception. I think a lot of people just think, oh, it might just be easier to leave your cat indoors. And it might just be because they're also not aware of the fact that there are safe ways of making your cat like an indoor outdoor cat, like on a harness and everything, instead of just like letting them roam freely. Because I also think that letting like just straight outdoor cats can be dangerous for them, with all the wildlife that's around. They can get run over by cars and all that. So that's what I think a lot of people are thinking when you say like, I want to take my cat outdoors. But it can be very, very safe to take your cat outdoors on a leash and everything. But that also goes the other way around, where I think there's a lot of misconception where I can just put a harness on my cat and we can just go wherever we want. And that's just so not true, right? Like that's like I trained Oreo for maybe 2 months before we took our first major hiking trip. And even then it was a really short one because I wanted to test to see how she was doing, right? Like it was only an hour trip or something, and then we came back, right? Like we really didn't want to push her too hard. So there's a lot of training that goes into making sure your cat is comfortable outdoors before you take them on long trips. If you just throw a harness on your cat and put them in a backpack and just go, they're going to hate it because they've like totally overstimulated. They don't know what's going on. So there are two ends of the spectrum when it comes to misconceptions about adventure cats, right? Like either cats don't actually like it or, oh, my cat will love it. Let's just go ahead and do this without any proper training.
Yeah. And there's so many variables in between, the cat variables, human variables, situational variables. So yeah, I mean, paying attention to all of those things is totally key. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the most important thing that you've learned over this journey?
So I think the most important thing is that, Oreo has actually taught me a lot, right? Like I am surprised at how well she's able to walk up mountains sometimes. Like granted, she doesn't walk the entire way, but some of the trails that we're doing are pretty steep. And I'm like, being blind doesn't limit you at all, and that doesn't just go for cats. It goes for like animals, people, everything, right? Like having a disability doesn't mean you're at a disadvantage, right? Like you can live life like any normal human being, cat, dog, whatever. And that you just have to be creative with how you introduce your blind cat or whatever outdoors. Because I have this bad habit of checking our Humane Society website. Recently, I saw there was a cat that had non-functioning rear legs.
Yeah.
Right, I'm still checking the website. I just don't tell Mark about it. Yeah, so there's this cat that didn't have functioning rear legs, and so their foster home was they were training her to sit in a backpack so they could still take her places. And I think that's such a great idea because she shouldn't be limited just because she can't walk properly, right? She's got a little wheelchair thing where she's got wheels on the back of her legs and she just goes. But yeah, they've trained her to sit in a backpack, and there are these adorable pictures that I've seen on their website of her just sitting outdoors inside the backpack. She looks totally content. Disabilities, you just have to work around them. You just got to get creative, and you can give your animal a super fulfilling life. You just have to be a little bit creative with it.
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's not something that I've really thought too much about, but the opportunities for cats with special needs to go outside safely on leash is you know, it just opens up a whole new world for them and for their humans. I love it. So, I mean, bravo to you. You guys are doing a fabulous thing for Oreo. Clearly she's, you know, she's made for this life. I just love it. It's, you know, it just touches my heart. I love it. Love it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. She touches our hearts every day. Like
Yeah,
we're
I
just,
bet she does.
she constantly surprises us.
Yeah, I bet she does. You must be so excited for what's to come. She's
Yeah, we actually have another hike planned for this weekend. So hopefully we'll get some good hikes in there.
nice. And what's your best advice for people who want to either with a special needs cat or just do this with their cat in general? What's your best piece of advice, or maybe top 3 tips?
Yeah, so definitely patience is key. Like I said, you can't just throw your harness on a cat and just go. It's something that takes lots and lots of practice, and it's a huge like trust building relationship, like a whole process. If your cat doesn't trust you, they're not going to want to go anywhere with you. And so that's why you have to be really patient and do it very slowly. You know, there's some cats who like take to a harness very easily, and like you're very lucky. But you know, start by just draping that harness over them, seeing if they're okay with that weight first, and then just take it off like after like a minute or something, you know, just like really, really slow trust building workouts like that. You really have to make sure that, and you remember that your cat is comfortable with what you're doing. And also remember that when you want to take your cat out, remember that it's not just for you, right? Like sometimes I do believe that like most cats can be adventure cats as long as the patience is put into it. But there are some cats who, you know, just might not take to it. And you just have to understand that, you know, if they don't want it, that's okay, because
Yeah,
it's something that you're doing for your cat, right? So piece of advice is, first of all, just, you know, try, you can definitely try taking your cat out and just be very patient with it. But if it doesn't work out, don't be disheartened. It's something that's meant for your cat. And then another piece of advice I would like is that, you know, it's something that is supposed to build your trust with your cat. So you don't want to, you know, just take your cat outdoors and then your cat's not having fun at all. So you just want to make sure the two of you are both genuinely enjoying yourselves. Like, you know, it is a lot of work to take your cat out. So, you know, it might be helpful to have somebody else there with you. Or if you've got 2 cats, only take them one at a time. Because if it becomes too much of a chore, then you're not having fun either, right? And so that's why I'm really lucky that I have Mark to help me with this, because I would definitely not be able to take 2 cats out at once. So just making sure that like both the cat and the human are both comfortable with going outdoors together. And it's a really long process to get to that point where you're comfortable with going on really long trails, but it's so rewarding once you actually get there.
yeah.
Like you're so happy with it, you know your cats are happy too, and it's just, and that feeling of that bond that you have with your pets after all that hard work and all that training and patience is it's amazing. You can't compare that with anything.
So worth it, huh? And then you're all together as a family. Like for me, that's, you know, one of the special things is Melba can come anywhere with us. She comes on holiday, she comes on day trips, we go take her shopping, she just goes everywhere. And I mean, I just love that aspect of it. You know, I mean, for me, cats, the family. So why not?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, why shouldn't they come with us? Yeah,
exactly,
totally.
yeah. And you know, you're giving them like a great lifestyle too, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're not just stuck in their house all day. They actually get to go out, see the world, and it's completely safe the entire time.
Exactly. And safe for them and safe for other wildlife. Yeah, for sure, which is totally
exactly, yeah.
You know, we're all about. And just to go back to your thing about you know, totally, me too, I think that all cats can be adventure cats, and that's why I've kind of gone with the term Catventurous, because I think that I mean, there are not all humans that are adventurous. So to have an adventure cat, for those humans, it's not where they're at. But for me, I feel like every cat can be what I call Catventurous, which is they can go outside safely on harness and leash with their humans, whether it's in their backyard, a few steps from their doorway, whether it's in their local park, it's down the street a little bit. Almost every cat, unless there's some really special situation, I feel like almost every cat can benefit from this kind of lifestyle. And most cats are not going to be doing big adventures like you guys do. It's because their humans don't do that. So that's why I've tried to reframe this whole idea of adventure cats and call them, yeah, Catventurous. Let's just get cats out there on leash, whatever it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love it. I 100% agree. Yeah, adventure could be like anything for your cat, right?
Yeah.
Your cat has never stepped outside your front door, just making that step to sit on your porch together. That's an adventure for them, right? Like it's something new for them. It's something stimulating. A trip to your local pet store. All the different smells they're going to, all the different sights, the sounds that they're going to hear. Everything is an adventure for them, right?
Totally.
So it doesn't have to be
doing it together.
like super. Exactly. As long as you're doing something fun together that's outside the house, totally an adventure.
Yeah, love it. Love it. And what do you think would make this world a better place for cat venturers and their humans? If you could wave your magic wand.
Yeah, so something that would make a better place for everybody is probably just making sure that all the pets, like especially dogs, that are the people out there with dogs, making sure that they're leashed is a big one. We're lucky that we've never come across any off-leash dogs or any unfriendly off-leash dogs. But again, we always like take that precaution. The second we see a dog, we just pick them up and like walk past the dogs on the trails, just because you never want to take that risk. But yeah, having them leashed is always a great idea. Just because again, even if your dog has great recall, the second they walk a little bit too far into that forest and there's a bear down there, it's bad for your dog too. So keeping them on leash is going to help cat owners, because cat owners have just as much right to be on that trail with their cats as dog owners do. And by keeping every pet that you have on leash, it's something that's going to help everybody. So I think that one's a really big one. And most people are really nice about it. When we're on the trail, we see people with dogs, if they're off leash, they see that we have cats, they'll put them back on leash, so they're usually really nice about it. We haven't had any bad confrontations or anything. But yeah, it's just being considerate of, and knowing that there are people out there with cats who are, cat venturing now. It might not have been as common 10 years ago, but now that people are more aware of the fact that you can take your cat out, just being aware that, you're sharing this trail with a lot of other animals and a lot of other people. So being courteous to other people who are on the trail.
Yeah. Yeah. Just being a responsible human being.
Exactly. Yeah. Just, using common sense.
Yeah, totally. And is there anything that you want to add that we haven't talked about? Anything at all?
No, I think we've covered quite a bit here. Yeah, I just really want to emphasize that special needs animals, they deserve like a great life as well. And, there are lots of ways to stimulate them. You just have to get creative. If you've got like a special needs like dog or cats, just train them in the backpack and you can take them outside for like a spin around your block or something, something that'll, enrich their lives just a little bit every day kind of thing.
Love that.
Yeah, every animal deserves a chance to, live their best life.
Yeah, totally. I love that. And thank you again so much for talking to us. I think it's like I said before, as soon as I saw your account, I thought I've got to talk to her and get her perspective on things. And it's really made me think a lot more about special needs cats and how there's such an important role to play by raising awareness that how much this can add to their lives. And I thank you for helping me kind of open that side of my thought process. So I think it's just, it's awesome. And I look forward to seeing your Instagram develop and because you've only been on a short time. How long have you been on Instagram?
Yeah, I only started an account for her like 2 months ago or something. So yeah, we're still looking to grow and lots of adventures ahead for Oreo. I'm hoping to take her to her first waterfall this weekend. So hopefully, I'm because she's like loves that sound of the water. I'm really hoping she'll be really interested in that. It's just really cute to watch her just explore everything, and it's not really about us anymore. Whenever we go out, we're like, oh, are they going to like it? Are they going to like have a lot of fun? And yeah, we're crazy cat people.
Oh, I love it. And it'll just, I know with Melba and me and my husband, it's just, it's enriched our lives in ways that we just never expected. It's a
For
really
sure, yeah.
fabulous thing just to see what she sees, and not necessarily just, I'm not just talking about vision, I'm talking about, with Oreo, obviously you're going to enjoy the world that she sees, and that she
Exactly, yeah.
experiences. Yeah, oh, it's just fabulous, and I think you're in for a fabulous ride. So congratulations
Thank you, yeah.
on your forming your family and getting out there like this. I think it just feeds my soul to hear stories like this. So thanks so much for
Oh,
coming
that's
to
so
us.
sweet.
Oh, you're welcome.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, I look forward to all the other Catventure stories out there.
Yeah, we're going to keep doing this weekly, except when we're on holidays. So so everyone stay tuned for more
Yeah,
stories.
awesome.
Yeah. So thanks,
Thank you so much,
Racheal.
Charlotte.
And I'll add all of the details of where you can find them on Instagram. And it's just Instagram. Are you on Facebook or any other social media?
Just
that you want to add
Instagram.
in? Instagram. I'll add the details in the YouTube description box below this video. So thanks, Racheal. And thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you soon. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you. See you later.
Bye.